welcome everyone to this panel talk. I have the great pleasure of being here with two wonderful guests who will introduce themselves in a second. My name is Davide Rovera, and I run at Esade the eWorks program, which is our venture creation program, and as well teaching entrepreneurship. And here we try to unfold in the few minutes we have together some of the core points about the revolution of generative AI for early stage founders, what it means for them getting started and what it means for early stage investors as well joining. First thing I wanted to ask is, again, thinking of where we are right now with the current stage of, especially I would say, generative AI being available and being so cheap to use for everyone, what changes for very early stage founders? So if somebody today decides to start a new venture, A, what should they think of? And B, what should they also not do in terms of make the best out of currently available technologies?
I would say like AI have redefined the industry in every sector. Everything is automated now. If you want to create a business model in 1 minute, you can use ChatGPT or any generative AI, and you'll have it in 1 minute. Things that we used to do for 2 weeks or a month working on a business model. I would say AI has revolutionized the industry and the sector. And one of the mistakes that people are making is like they think AI is a substitute of the job than using AI as an assistant. And the other part, things I've seen, especially in sales, when people are using the AI agents in sales, instead of humanizing this chatbot, they only leave it fully automated. And this is one of the mistakes that is reducing customer retention, because us as customer, we don't like to feel like we're talking to a machine, but we like to feel this interaction, this human touch. So one of the mistakes is the fact that people are using AI to fully automate all the tasks, and this is so challenging.
In my career of 25 years, I've seen the internet, the mobile, the cloud computing, and now AI, which is very real and upon us. I think the space at which AI is changing and evolving and disrupting the way in which we conduct business has been pretty profound, as you probably all have witnessed. The couple of things that I'd say is like, I think of this idea that we've built these foundational models, which are pretty ginormous innovations in their own realm. But the more important part is like, how are these innovations going to get leveraged in the last mile? And one can argue that the last mile is either represented by people who have the eyeballs. So these are consumer businesses that might already have existing eyeballs and existing experiences, where AI can be integrated to make those experiences better than they are today, make them stickier, make them more personalized. So I think as a business person starting a new enterprise, there should be an AI-first approach, and I think that starts with being aware, making sure that we make appropriate investments in our workforce so that people at least understand what these tools are capable of doing. Which is important because that will lead to better decision-making and more integrated decision-makings with AI. And I'm seeing that that gap is still pretty significant. If you pick up, like I'm a product expert, and all of the product managers that I mentor and I talk to in companies that I invest in, it's pretty clear that very little effort today is being put into really going deep into what these things actually mean. We live in a world where we tend to spend a lot of time on surface of things in a much larger grain size, but it'll become very important for key people within the organizations that are going to actually be disruptive in nature to be able to understand and comprehend and assimilate what these technologies mean and how they can be leveraged in the context of their own businesses, because every business is unique.
How should one learn and keep up to date? No, it's difficult even for operators in the sectors.
We live in a world where the world's knowledge is right in here in our hands. So I think the ability to be able to leverage this knowledge, being able to become very targeted, being able to learn in micro moments is something that's already real, it already exists. So I think curiosity has to exist within organizations. I think management teams and leadership teams have to instill a sense where people should be stepping above and beyond what they know today and try to at least retool in their own context as much as possible. So I think a lot of what a person needs to know in their context for their businesses to thrive and succeed in the future is probably available to you. I think the only thing I would encourage people to do is that there's so much information, it's hard to distill the good from the bad. So it's important to like lean on credible sources. So if I was to start this journey, I'd be looking at the most credible minds, the most credible thinking that's happening in the field, and try to find those sources where I can find an ability to learn on my own before I can actually be able to share that philosophy with the rest of the organization so that they can do the same.
Yeah.
You do anything in particular to stay
Yeah,
up to date?
upskilling. I would say upskilling is a life learning journey. It doesn't have any end, it doesn't have any stop. Even for founders or people who are aspiring to be founders or working in even in different industries, upskilling is the key to be competitive and to really to stay updated enough.
Wonderful. And then going one step forward, now you already mentioned the humanization or dehumanization of certain tools. One thing that radically changes is, especially if we think about agents, whenever planning for a new business, we used to think about resources in terms of economic business and then human resource. If I have agents, I can turn them on and off at any point in time. So how does that changes the mindset of someone setting up a new entity from scratch in terms of thinking about resources?
I think AI, when talking about agents, it's one of the tool that, as I mentioned before, have to optimize the process, the bureaucratic works, as we say. And someone who's starting from scratch without money, it's good to use all this AI or any agent that we have already in place. But I don't think that the AI would help someone with to scale from 0 to 100 in 2 weeks, because we still need this human effort. As I said, human is human, because we have this critical thinking of thinking like more beyond of what we're doing than all these machines that have a limitation. Because when we build them, we use the data, a specific amount of data, a data set, no, but it has a limitation. They can think as a human to scale from 0 to 100. I mean, we still use we are using this machine and we're still using them, but the human involvement is so important and is so crucial.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things to acknowledge is that, like anything new technological in nature, there's going to be an evolution to maturity. I don't think agents are at the most mature state. I think one way you can think about this is that you've got foundational models that are locked up in data centers, and you're trying to figure out where is the last mile? How are these models going to be applicable in your context to your business? And agents is a great use case for that. The two things that are most powerful about an agent is its ability to be autonomous, which if you think about from a human perspective, the two biggest limitations we humans have are biological in nature. It's the amount of information we can store in our biological mind and the amount of patterns that we can assimilate based on that information we have. And computers and systems of AI don't have those two limitations. But the one thing that you have to figure out is like, if it depends on the nature of your business. If your nature of your business is high stakes, where false positives and false negatives have a heavy cost. For example, if you're in the business of healthcare and you're a cardiologist, making a mistake through an agentic AI system has a high cost associated to it, a high human cost. There are other use cases like customer support, where getting 90% of it right might actually be better than the human equivalent, which could be maybe an error rate of higher than 80%.
Is there a risk, as you just mentioned, no? Technology, we're in a very early stage of the technology, it's evolving very, very fast. Is there a risk of overinvesting? And how should someone decide, again, where to draw a line?
I'm going to pick somebody who's a bit smarter than me, which was a conversation, and all of you can find this. It was a 1-hour interview with Satya Nadella from Microsoft, and his point was like, we can create all the value in the world as technology, but we have to be able to figure out how we're going to capture the value. And a lot of that steeped in today's world is steeped on GDP growth. This idea that while hyperscalers will get a disproportional component of your GDP growth, that GDP growth has to be real, has to be present. So I think there is a risk that you end up building more compute infrastructure than you'll ever be able to utilize. There's a risk that as an enterprise player, you build enough compute power that nobody on your customer side is willing to adopt. But I do think these problems are different when you change the vernacular from being an enterprise player to being a consumer business. Because from a consumer business perspective, these opportunities already exist. These folks don't have to go to change management. You don't have to move entire workforces to do things differently. You already have experiences. You already have sticky users. How do you sort of embed these experiences within their existing canvas? And we're seeing more and more of that. There's not a lot of retreat from this idea of investing 70, $80 billion on compute for companies like Meta. But there is a thought process that's unfolding in Microsoft where they're like, maybe we're moving a bit too fast. Because adoption might not be as fast as we think it is, because enterprises tend to move slower.
What could an entrepreneur do? What should companies do, especially in the early stages where, again, resources are limited, time to take decisions is very limited, to try and avoid or minimize risk potentially coming from dehumanizing too much some processes?
Yeah, from early stage, startup and company have to be sure that the technology are ethical, but I mean, they're unbiased because biases can come from a data set that build this technology, this solution that you really want to sell into the market. It can also come from the algorithm that build this technology, not only data set, because a data set can be representative enough, but you always see the technology solution still generating biases. So, and biases can also come in the time of deployment. So, when you are building a technology or when you're adopting a technology or implementing a technology, you really have to know that it's unbiased as possible. The other thing is like it should be transparent, explainable. So, users and stakeholders who are investors or a client should understand why this AI is taking decision and why it's taking this type of decision and rather than the other one. And the other, the security and the privacy of data, knowing the traceability of data, so people would know when this AI is using our data. It can be name of people, it can be email, but knowing about the storage of this AI and being transparent enough, it's also a key. Humanization is a key. I mean, for me, everything should be humanized. Yeah.
Switching as well, looking at the time, I have a couple of quick questions. One is, Hisham, on your side, you mentioned you're an angel investor. When you look into a venture, what are, let's say, green flags or what are red flags in terms of entrepreneurs and their relationship to AI tools?
Yeah, so it's been thematically the area where I'm making my most investments. I think of it in two vectors. On the vector of where, for me, what is a red flag, I would say wrapper companies, like these companies who are leveraging foundational models but are creating features that tend to be lighter in weight, where over time they don't really gain any competitive advantage. And the reason I don't like investing in wrapper companies is because sometimes the wrapper seems valuable, and it usually is, but it might be a feature gap in the foundational model. So every time OpenAI, for example, comes up with their annual release of their product roadmap or what they're going to release in the market, hundreds of these companies go out of business. So one of the things you have to sort of decouple is like, are you building something that's today potentially a feature that's on a roadmap that will get realized in the future, or is this something novel and new where you can actually build something that's going to be valuable in the long run?
Where do you see the most interesting opportunities from a technology standpoint in the next year, 2 years, or 4 years, if you want to stand on brand?
4 years from now, I see many opportunities in healthcare, especially because there are a lot of things to do and there are many opportunities there. And I think if there's any entrepreneurs here or someone having an idea, please come in the healthcare sector.
Yes, I'm very bullish and excited, irrespective of where we stand in the maturity curve with the agentic AI. I think the agentic AI has a tremendous potential. I think the thing that is really important to note here is that in this concept of reasoning models getting better is the first time in technology where you can build something and while you are sleeping, it's getting better, right? That's never happened in technology before. Like in technology, typically you build something, you learn from the market, and then you iterate. And all of these are investment cycles that you have to partake in. But this idea that you could have an agentic system set up where the more the people interacting with it, the more the data that's coming in, the more of the reinforcement learning that's taking place, these models are getting better and better. The foundational models inherently are getting better because they're getting better at reasoning, they're getting better at intelligence. So this idea that you could scaffold a business together where in 3 years it's going to be 10 times better than the business that you initially established without making any further investments is really, really exciting.
You personally, what tools are you using and for what from generative AI as of today? Do you want to start?
I use a lot ChatGPT because it helps to generate coding or debug. Sometimes I don't understand even my code and ask ChatGPT and I have a response in a minute. So I only use ChatGPT. I tried DeepSeek, but I'm not there.
Do
So
you use Claude as well for coding?
no, just only ChatGPT for now. Yeah, the premium one. Yeah, because I'm a lot into privacy, but it's still unsure. But I use ChatGPT only.
Okay.
So I subscribe to the camp that AGI is not going to be a single model. It's going to be a constellation of models. So I use Claude to write React components. I use DeepSeek for reasoning. I use ChatGPT to author emails. So it's made me inherently a lot lazier. But I tend to go to the model that has a particular skill set that's better than the other models, which also gives me conviction that the future of AGI is going to be a constellation of many models that will be able to do certain tasks better than the others. So I tend to use them, subscribe to all of them.
Thank you very, very much for your time, for your insights, and let's continue the conversation as well if somebody wants to outside, so we leave space for the next panel. But thank you again for coming and
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.